What's good, family? Welcome to another episode of Solo Dolo. That's where y'all get the unfiltered, I won't say real talk, but that's what you get with your boy, the one and only D Moraney, aka Hip Hop's old head, aka Hip Hop's Uncle Phil. So tonight I'm checking in, and we're gonna talk about Jesus is King. Now this won't essentially be an album review, because honestly I haven't heard it enough to really categorize this episode as such. And I'm not going to go too in depth into the album. I'll discuss that and we'll get that out the way. The album's not for me. Musically and how it's put together are very dope. Very dope. The arrangements, the hallelujahs, the different segues or breakdowns in between different, beats, the vibe and everything to that, everything that's connected to the vibe of the project, the feeling. It's Kanye did what Kanye does. He is the modern day Dre. And what I mean by that is that he is the head of the orchestra. And he's able to make sure that everyone that he collaborates with gives them his best to fit whatever his vision is or whichever vision is brought to the table. Kanye has that ability to go ahead and do that. So I'm not going to shit on the record because it's quality. And I think those who are saying it is whack are saying it's whack for another reason, and I'll get into that. But so it appears that Kanye has another, I don't want to say classic, but another quality album to add to the resume. So, congratulations to him. Now, the reason it's not for me, because if you listen to an honest conversation about hip hop or you listen to these Solo Bolo episodes, you know that when this was announced, I said this is all a rollout. This is everything that Kanye is doing. We take it back to Thanksgiving, church on Sundays, selling merch at the church on Sunday, on Easter Sunday. Those aren't bars. That's reality. That's what actually took place. For someone who is saying now, I am a Christian and I am, living righteously. I don't want to say holier than thou, but as someone who was identifying himself that way from jump, your motives were not in line in what you were discussing or what you are trying to share to the people. You now being this vessel of spirituality. From jump, from Easter Sunday, that wasn't the right way to go. So this is something that I was able to sit back, see, and understand, because another thing with Kanye is a wonderful marketer. He's probably one of his team of folks, whether that's John Monopoly or I forget the Braun dude's first name or whatnot, who says I'm not his manager, I'm kind of just in the mix helping him out or whatever. But these folks and whoever again he collaborates with, I'm sure Kris Jenner has her clause in this, somehow. They do what they do, and they're some of the best at it. And so Kanye has always been able to take these hits, whether they were his music wasn't selling like it should, or it was some stuff that he said, or it was something that Kim did in the past. He was able to always go ahead and take those hits and then tie his, whether it be fashion or artwork, in with something or someone else that was hot at the moment, and was able to not really be drugged down with some of this negativity surrounding his name like we've seen other artists in the past. I think Drake has shown that he is very resilient in that way. Jay, even though he hasn't had too many major scandals, every time someone sends a shot his way, he seems to somehow Neo from the Matrix kind of deflect it, and keep it pushing. I mean, especially when it comes to corporate America. You have those folks that will slander Jay's name and say he's a drug dealer, which is, something he did in the past. but that hasn't been able to go ahead and affect his mobility throughout corporate America. And Kanye, to a lesser extent at this point, has that same ability. So again, salute to him and his team. So this was something marketing wise they put together a long time ago. And as I said on the show, this was to get back into the good graces of the African American community, the hip hop community, and the masses who at some point embraced him and moved away. That's a key demographic, because when Kanye was really popping, that was some years back. So as the people that he was performing the music to have matured, Kanye has to mature as well. So you can't do the Little Pump records and expect for that same audience to really go ahead and embrace you. It's not going to happen. I'm not saying this gospel move is going to go ahead and do this, but when you listen to a lot of the records on Jesus is King, wasn't your traditional gospel vibe. You know, there's a few of them where it was soul sample Kanye and the beat was ill as hell. You know, the Got God, that beat was dope, but I think it's the second record, and I don't have the information in front of me because, again, I didn't want to do a Kanye review. I just wanted to go ahead and kind of talk about the journey of where this project has come and, you know, appears to be going. So the second joint on that one, let me see. I think it's called, I can't remember. I think it's called something. It's either Follow God or something to that effect. That beat is crazy. I definitely was feeling that, and the one with the hallelujahs, that was dope as well. So again, Kanye is able to come back, hit us with something that is going to be recognizable to us, something that we're going to go ahead and accept. When I say we, I mean the masses. You know, I don't watch Showtime at the Apollo as much as I used to, or at all, really, to keep it 100. But in the younger days, that was something that, hey, it's hella late. We was either getting back home or we didn't end up doing anything. And after Showtime at the Apollo went off for us, that was pretty much the end of the night. Either you was getting into something or you were getting into bed. There was only two options at that point, right? So the move at Showtime at the Apollo, not that you would win, but you wouldn't get booed off the stage no matter how horrible you sang if you jumped on stage and you sung about Jesus. So after Kanye's antics, you know, the Trump stuff, the slavery was a choice stuff, after all of those antics, the attacking of Jay early on, Drake, you know, stuff that diminishes the people who support you in the industry, in social media, when it comes to, you know, your personal friendships for some of those situations that he popped off at. Those really affected him. And so he needed to get back. So he tried with dropping the 7 or 8 joints last summer. And, you know, other than Pusha T's and Kid Cudi and Kanye, which I really don't fuck with, so I can't even begin to tell you how that did. But public perception was maybe that was the second most successful joint. There was the Nas joint that people either really loved or hate. But the rest of those really didn't do too much. I know there was some scandal with the Tiana Taylor situation. I know supposedly she had a record, they had a record, released their record. We never got a Sci-Hi record. So that, I think it was that summer of Kanye, really didn't, or the Gov Good music really didn't resonate, that I'm assuming Kanye West and the people he was working with musically, I don't think that really went over too well. So to come back and release an album that is catered to what is probably the most, I don't want to say accepting because that's just the wrong word, but it's probably the most easiest thing to do, I guess, is to say, hey, I'm saved. I'm a man of God now. Jesus has come to me. and the majority of the urban community, Black, Latino, and again that crowd that is no longer wanting to hear Kanye and the sick fucks, right? They're going to step back and they're going to say, you know what? If this is the case, then we'll probably be more accepting of this, because he sounds as if he's, you know, he knows that he's been wrong. I haven't heard an apology yet. I haven't heard I'm sorry for the way that I've acted. I'm sorry for some of the things that I've said. I haven't heard any of that yet. Just other than I'm saved now, which I guess you don't have to say sorry if you've been saved. I'm not sure. I don't have the manual in front of me, so I can't tell you how that works. But it's interesting. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, go to the Honest Conversation About Hip Hop podcast page on Facebook and send me a message or post something. Let me know I'm wrong. Post the audio of him apologizing for how he's acted. No, I haven't seen the Zane Lowe or the Big Boy interview, so if that happened in those, then I'm misinformed. But I don't think I am. So, no apology. Just starts off on Christmas Day at the joint that they have in Palm Springs. It evades my mind right now, but the big festival that they have every single year. And so Coachella, I think it is, you're there at Coachella and you're doing a Sunday service outside on Easter Sunday. And I think I said Thanksgiving, but it was actually Easter Sunday. And you're doing the Sunday service and you got tents right next to the Sunday service that you're performing, and you're slinging sweaters for like $3.50, socks for $7.50, and you're selling concessions. People are getting money for water and all this kind of other stuff, and you're there doing a Sunday service in the name of the Lord. And again, let's just start this off. This is not me, spiritual man, because that's or religious Christian man, that's not who I am. So let's really make that very clear. This is just my observations. I'm better than nobody, and I still have my stuff to work through as well. But again, this is just observation on the brand that is behind this move or this project. So you're there, you're making a lot of money, and which is no different from what happens in the church houses, and it's going down. This is Sunday as I record, 3:30 on the West Coast. So somewhere there's somebody who is paying to be given the word of the Lord, right? So again, no knock to Kanye, but in my personal opinion, if you are turning your life around completely and giving yourself in faith, and then so all of every move, every step, all of your motives should be about that, nothing else. But you showed that to us very early on. Again, Easter Sunday, Coachella, you had that whole situation. Then you start popping around to all of the communities that you're going to need your army, your new customers, your army, your new customers. Popped up in Watts, popped up in Atlanta. Of course, you went home and parted the Chicago Red Sea, right? Went home and parted that after abandoning the foundation that I want to say was running your mother's name or something to that effect with oh man, why is the name evading me right now? Rhyme Fest was running it, another one of your boys was running it, and things got real ugly publicly on Twitter between your woman and one of your close homies. So a lot of wildness. But you come back, you do one of your services, you part the Red Sea, it's all good. Again, you were in Atlanta. I want to say you were somewhere in Texas somewhere, but you went to communities where you would be well received, and that you would be able to have your army grow. And then you got all the Jesus is King merchandise that's already out, and so forth. And then you announce, hey, I'm dropping this record, and You head to Atlanta one last time where, you bring, everybody. It's a star-studded event. Everybody's out. You get on stage, you do your thing, you say you're going to drop the record doesn't drop. Then it pops up and it's like, hey, guess what? Movie now is accompanying this to chronicle, I guess, my transformation. I almost said me transformation, like I was some old gangster or whatever, but your transformation. So now we have that out, and you do a show in Detroit, and people can get tickets a certain way, but I don't know if you sold them or you gave them out for free. But again, part of we know how things work now when it comes to the streaming and the rollout of this album. I'm pretty sure you already had, and I'm gonna be old school. I know it's called something else now, but back in my day it was a barcode. So we know, every time you did one of those events, you were slowly loading up the totals for you to go ahead and drop on the first week, because again, that is very important, because you're still Kanye West and you still need to debut 1, debut 2, debut 3. You still need to, you can't do 2 or 3. You still need to debut number 1, because that's important to the brand. Because if it was about the message and the music, you wouldn't care. You could debut in the top 10, and that would be considered success for a gospel record. But you are Kanye West, the artist, and this was something that was put together from jump to be what has probably been one of the best rollouts that I've seen, and the numbers will prove that. They're not out yet, but it's looking, I think every single charted. It already knocked off the kid with the bullet, or not the bullet holes, but whatever's in his head. Kid with the pebbles in his head, NBA Youngboy or whatever. We got that little patch on his head that looked like a PlayStation controller. You just be like X, square, circle. You know what I mean? But anyway, so you had that whole rollout, and it looks like it's doing really good. But let's not pretend this is not what it is. This was a project that was marketed. This was a switch from a style of music, and that's my opinion. Solely my opinion only. But that's what it looks like. The Forum joint you did, again, I'm pretty sure, that's going to count for something. The announcement now that you're no longer going to perform any of your new stuff. You're going to only perform your old stuff. And I'm not going to kill him for that. Prince did that. And to me, Prince is a GOAT. I understand why Prince wasn't doing it, because that was the stuff that was controlled by Warner at the time. And Prince didn't want to give them any, royalties from any time that he played the music. Anytime he did Purple Rain, he essentially was paying them. They were getting the money from that revenue, from the performance of that song at whatever venue they were. And depending on the venue, more payout, shaboom shebang. But so he's no longer going to do his old music, because his old music was hip hop, which he hated. At one point, wanted to get out because it was the devil's music. It's a dude who just made Sick Fuck like a year ago, or maybe a little longer. I don't know. So I said all that to say that, I'm not 100% sold on Kanye West. I will listen to these interviews. Everybody's saying, hey, D, you gotta listen. I will. I've seen some of the clips, and it's unfair to criticize just based off clips. But in some of the things I've said, it doesn't sound like he is sincere in really trying to be Christ-like. And again, I'm not here to judge that, because I am far from that. Good dude. I try to do what I can. But, I'm as far away from being Christ-like as possible. But just some of the things, I'm the greatest artist ever, just some of the stuff that he has said is still very vain, and not someone who's been humbled by knowing that their existence is to bring the message of God. And again, I am not the standard on that. Not at all. This is just, again, my personal perspective on that. So where do we go from now? What happens with good music? We talked about that on an honest conversation about hip hop a few episodes back. That was a question I posed. Hey, if Kanye is now, leaving secular music or non-secular music, whatever it is, what does good do? Pusha T is, I guess or not I guess, but is the head. But where does, Kanye always came off as the life blood to the camp production, and whatever else was going on. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with good music. But it also might be an exciting time because you maybe finally get, now I'm not a fan of this cat, but maybe finally get a designer record that is designer-ish and not what good music had a vision for, what Kanye wanted to hear. Maybe we get the designer that gave people Panda and Timmy Turner, whatever that other trash was. Maybe Tiana Taylor now has a chance to put out the music she wants to put out rather than the music that Kanye did. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. In my opinion, his production skills are definitely going to be missed if if he's not going to allow his beats to be used for any non-Christian worthy music, which will be interesting to see what he does with that, because I'm pretty sure he's got some stuff in the vault or stuff that's already been done that people are going to want to put out, and see if he lives by that code of not being attached to that and not receiving any money from, I guess, sinning is how we'd have to look at it. So it's going to be very interesting, man. And shout out to Consequence and Rhymefest, who were involved with this record. Rhymefest confirmed on Twitter that he worked on the project, and I think it was on Twitter as well that Consequence confirmed that he had the final say so to what made the album, or any editing or mixing or things of that nature. So it was good to see that team that brought so much of Kanye's best material to us, to see them back together. It definitely, that's a win for hip hop. And now if they're going in some sort of gospel way or positivity way, who knows, I'm for that. If there is let me just say that if there is a positive arm of hip hop, and I know that there is, but if there is something where, and a lot of times it's corny, as gospel music is, rap music, not all of it. I don't want Bizzle and these other cats coming for me. That's not what I'm saying, but there's a large content of that. And I think a lot of times when you don't know, the artists that are really killing it and lyrically get busy, you're going to come across the more cornier guys first, because I would say the mainstream gospel rap fans, or not the mainstream, the majority of them will latch on to the safer, cornier, when I say Jesus, you say save me type of rap dudes, not dudes that really have bars and are really making thought-provoking music. So if Kanye can somehow give us that, I know one artist that can transcend from good really well and would really thrive in that, and it's kind of been doing that for a while. One of my goats, Common. Can you imagine Common with the inspired Ye, and Common is just spitting that knowledge that we need to get. Doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be Christianity. It can just be spiritual, spiritual type rhymes. I think Common could really excel at that, and like I said, has been doing it, in my opinion, for a while. And if Kanye is inspired and get whatever choir he has, I want to shout out this sister promoter artist out of the IE named Young Miss. she had posted something that I found very interesting too, about how the Sunday service choir wasn't really incorporated into Jesus is King, and I really didn't catch that because I said I've only listened to it a few times. And you know, that was big with, you know, God's property and you know, for Kirk Franklin. And there's some similarities. I mean, Kanye spitting way many more verses, but there was that vibe on the album that you know, I made a joke saying, hey, somewhere, you know, Kirk Franklin's heated, flipping up melodies from heaven into a Kanye West diss track, only to, I posted this like up to the 4th track, only to find out that he was later on the album. So joke was on me in that scenario. But Young Miss said that, hey, you know what, he, you know, should have used them a little bit more, and I definitely feel her on that. I thought that, you know, that would have been, you know, that would have been a nice vibe, you know, and it would have elevated the album. You know, in my opinion, made some of these songs feel a little different, because for me, gospel music has to be that feel. I remember sitting in the Rock Church in Compton, shout out to my pops for, you know, partying on a Saturday night and then getting me up early and still taking me to, you know, to church for, it was the LA Mass choir, and we would always go that Sunday for sure. And I wouldn't really go, you know, to hear the word at that time. I was just going just to be in the environment. The environment was crazy. It just felt good. The music was good. Everybody was smiling, happy, and you know what I mean? It's the one thing that you do love about black churches is nobody's mean mugging, nobody's rolling their eyes the majority of the time. Everybody is loving one another at that time. Now, the minute you're out the church, you hit the corner, you jump in your whip, and things change. But it's that mind state that I wish we could carry with us back into our homes. You know, that understanding that we are all one. We're all the same. Fighting against the same odds, the majority of us. Some of us have a leg up. Some of us don't. But we're all one. But that was the vibe that I was hoping to catch, and it didn't. And I think I'm gonna agree with Young Miss on this one, and say that he definitely needed the choir. He needed his Sunday service. But we'll see. He's got the movie's dropping Christmas Day or 2 days before Christmas or something. It's called Jesus is Here, or Jesus is Alive, or something to that effect. So there's a movie that accompanies this. You know, if he's smart, there's probably more music, you know, and I could see him very soon in the new year actually, you know, opening some sort of church. Probably already has one going, not so much on his property, but somewhere where it can become, you know, somewhere where people could be seen, you know, and a place where people would want to go, just not the rich and famous, but, you know, his fans. So I've taken up almost 30 minutes of your time kind of discussing my thoughts on Jesus is King. And again, not really just Jesus is King. I guess I'll wrap this up to say that if this is his truth, I'm all for it. If this is not, and his people who are helping his career along at this point, let's say, feels like this is a less damage he can do to himself, you know, hopefully they're right. We'll see. Celebrate the music, because it's new music from Kanye West. So the Kanye fans, you have something to be happy about. But let's not pretend that this was some organic move, that he just woke up one day and said, hey, this is what I'm going to do with myself. And I guess in some interview he said he was chained to a hospital bed, and you know, that's when he realized he needed Jesus or whatnot. But this was a rollout, and it was a long rollout. And we'll see at the end of the day what this does. Does he get an album of the year? Does he get a Grammy for that? A Grammy for rap? A Grammy for gospel? You know, is that possible? Where does this take Ye? And how does this change his brand, Kim's brand, and ultimately the Kardashians' brands? Because at this point, I think they're all pretty much connected at the hip. even though they've been able to manage their own separate brands, have their own separate scandals and situations, and again continue to keep making money. I'm telling you, Kris Jenner, whatever playbook she's got, she's at one. If you can get that Kris Jenner playbook, go get that, because everybody is doing it. Everybody's doing it. That's attached to, I guess we'll call it the mothership. Kris Jenner, the mothership, huh? So once again, this has been your boy D Maraney, aka Hip Hop Old Head, aka Hip Hop's Uncle Phil. You're listening to Solo Dolo, which is brought to you by An Honest Conversation About Hip Hop podcast. You can check out the podcast every Sunday on our Honest Conversation About Hip Hop podcast page. That's on Facebook. You can go there directly. Right now you can find us on Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, new episodes coming soon, Stitcher, Deezer, and anywhere quality podcasts are found. Want to say what up to my co-host Big Poon Saab Capone. They'll be back with me next week, and we'll discuss whatever's popping at the time in the world of hip hop and urban culture and just culture in general. Until then, again, it's your boy D Maraney. Peace.